You're listening to the On the Bounce podcast, the show that is the ultimate source for all MLS fantasy news, tips, and everything else you need to dominate your leagues. Me, I'm JK, and I'm joined as always by my two hosts, Brady and Jarvis. Together, us three make up On the Bounce, and we're here to give you the best advice we can, along with some pretty great entertainment. Now, with all this out the way, let's jump right into today's episode. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the On the Bounce podcast. This is a huge milestone, pretty much. It's episode 20. We have been here for a while now. It's been good. I hope you guys are liking the new format, the once a week, the nice jam-packed episode with all the info you need to dominate your leagues. Now today, we're back to just a duo of the On the Bounce boys, and that's me, JK, and as always, kinda, he's batting like 90%, boys. That's Gravy the Gaffer. Brady, how you doing, bub?
I'm doing fantastic. It's great to be back on the best MLS fantasy podcast that's ever been created.
No lies detected. It's truth only around here. So today we're going to keep these once a week rolling. We got another huge double game week coming up starting tonight as you guys are listening. Lots of games, 10 teams. So we're going to get into all that good stuff. We're going to recap MLS Week 13 action. And then, of course, hit you with the key starters, the captain's choice, and the matchups you need to look out for. So it's going to be a big episode. So hopefully wherever you guys are listening, you're in a comfy place. You got your headphones in or you're cranking it up in your car on your way to or from work. So shout out to everybody listening. It's been fun. And like I said, it's episode 20. So it's going to be a fun episode. We're going to be pumped up. And Jarvis is missing our third, the trio, but he's here in spirit. So we got some picks coming in for him. No worry. We're going to pick up his slack. So quickly, like I was mentioning, it's a big double game week again. There's 10 teams playing, so quickly those teams are Atlanta United, Minnesota United, Montreal Impact, Real Salt Lake, Philly Union, Colorado Rapids, DC United, Chicago Fire, Sporting KC, and the LA Galaxy. So there is some big boys in there, lots of good MLS fantasy talent, lots of good MLS talent. It's going to be another fun week of MLS football. We got games starting Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's going to be very fun to watch, and I'm really excited about some of these matchups. So why don't we go ahead, kick it off with some Week 13 recap. Some stuff that we saw over the last week that we liked, some stuff that was surprising, or just kind of anything that caught our eyes in MLS action. So Brady, you want to kick it off? Anything fun or crazy you saw over the last weekend?
Yeah, there's some crazy things that went down. I was pretty surprised by the SKC lads getting the squeaking out the win against Seattle in a shootout. Mm-hmm. I feel like SKC is like such a great team, and they just struggled this year in league play. Yeah. And I feel like this might be kind of a catalyst to get these boys back on track. Because I mean, they're one of the most talented teams in the MLS, in my opinion. And I thought that was great to see them squeak one out and hopefully get back on track. What about you?
Yeah, just like you were saying about SKC, it's weird. They're one of those teams that are definitely on paper like amazing talent-wise, and they've had those. It's been like the MLS season almost this year. Everyone's had like crazy highs and crazy lows. Right. But yeah, that game was wild. The same night, Sunday night, can we talk about Wando continuing his scoring way? He's getting 2 more goals out of nowhere.
My guy is just the timeless wonder.
He's literally awoken from his slumber in the beginning of the season. It's pretty wild. Some other crazy games. Portland's kind of keeping their hot streak rolling. Yeah. They won 3-1 again against Philly.
Against the hot Philly boys.
Yeah, been great. They were top of the East, so that was wild. And of course, sadly, not sadly, because we don't really like them too much as FCC fans, but Columbus took another L in their season. They're kind of keeping up their stumble, and it was to the Colorado Rapids, who now have 2 wins in a row, and they're only 2 wins on the season. So the Rapids could be turning it around ever since they got rid of their coach.
Of the season.
Could be.
I heard
that interim manager might yoink that job. Who knows? So that was fun, but really it was just another weird, wacky MLS week. It's been crazy. Not too many double game weeks last week. If you listen to the podcast, you know we gave you some guys from NY Red Bulls. We gave you some guys from the Whitecaps. And really, there wasn't too big of a scorer overall from, like the double game weeks. Like the highest score overall was Brady's boy, Johnny Russ, but he wasn't a double game week.
Yeah.
So from double game weeks, you had guys like, Tarek, who Jarvis was saying to start. So he got 14, and then like Kaku, who got 14. So nothing too much in the way of points, but, we kind of warned you on that. Neither one of those were some big heavy hitters. We were kind of saying, play it safe and get some defenders from the team. So hopefully you did. But yeah, it was a wild week for MLS action. Anything else you want to touch on before we move on to fantasy?
Yeah, I don't remember. Oh, well, how about the flippin'... We were expecting some fireworks from Minnesota and Houston. That went 1-0. That was pretty crazy. I mean, every time you think a Minnesota game, they're going to score a lot, it ends up being 1-0, I feel like.
Literally.
And then we might as well mention
Houston.
in Houston. I mean, they've been having fireworks this year, and then dropping a 0
Nothing. A nice egg.
But I don't know. I think that's about it from the wrap up from me.
Yeah, me too. There wasn't too many, crazy highlights. Just a lot of good games. Of course, LAFC, went off and dropped 4 goals in again because it's LAFC. There's not much you can do. They just simply look better than everyone, sadly. So,
true.
Yep. Who knows what'll happen, in the actual playoffs? Because playoffs are playoffs, but they do look mighty untouchable right now.
Yeah, they actually scored 5 goals with the own goals. So that's
true enough. They were just trying to help them out. They were like, listen. We'll even give you a handicap.
Yeah.
Sad it didn't work, but what can you do? So that's it for the kind of MLS, recap, wrap up. Just some overall MLS soccer viewing stuff from your boys at On the Bounce, what we saw. So now we're going to hop right in to the Week 13 winners and losers segment. And if you guys have been listening the last couple weeks on this once a week kind of structure we're doing, we only give you one winner and one loser each because these episodes are really focused on the huge weeks coming up because we're getting into a ton of double game weeks in the season, right in the jam-packed middle of the MLS season. So it's going to be fun. So stick around, and here come the winners and losers. So Brady, why don't you kick it off? Who is the big wiener this week?
The big wiener this week is the top scorer. We got to mention Johnny Russell. Big winner this week. High scorer on the week. You slap the armband on this man, you got a whopping 38 points. And he had a hat trick this week for SKC in their match against the Sounders. I mean, he's been a fairly consistent player this season. This is the second time that he's really gone nuclear. He had that big 17-point outing in Week 5. So keep a sharp eye on this man. I think, as I was saying, I think Sporting KC are a team that's underwhelmed a lot this year. And I think they still are one of the most talented teams. And then if they can get refocused and use this game as kind of a catalyst, I can see this man being a solid play this year. If you look at his stats, he's putting together a really solid season thus far. 7 goals, 3 assists, sitting in the middle of that team with a solid defense, some great scorers up front. I mean, I feel like this could be a man who could potentially be the top scoring midfielder if he gets a few more of these nuclear matches. And next week we got a matchup, or a double game week, against LA Galaxy and Houston Dynamo. So kind of a tough matchup. 2 matchups this week, but keep an eye on him. I don't think it's a bad start this week. Johnny Russell, big winner.
Big winner for sure. He went off like Brady was saying, and right now he's just outside the top 5 overall midfielders. So he's been playing well all season. So I
only
like
10
Johnny
mil
Russell.
too. Only 10 mil.
Yeah,
Not
which
bad.
is not bad at all for
True.
He's averaging 7.5 points. Like that's not a bad play
I'll
at
take
all.
that, man.
For sure. So I like that a lot. I love that pick. Definitely the big wiener. And my big winner, is big Brian Fernandez from over on the Portland Timber. Now, I don't remember if we talked about him when he made his transfer over to Portland just a couple weeks ago, but it's insane. Like, this man came in week 12 with 20 minutes to go, and he immediately made a huge impact. Scored a goal, was making passes, was just looking like the electricity Portland was kind of missing all season. And like I said, he came in 20 minutes, scored a goal, stole the show. And then last week, he finally got his full, starting time. He played a 90 minutes against Philly and absolutely went to work. He scored 12 fantasy points, had 2 goals, and helped Portland continue their nice kind of building up that momentum. They got a 3-1 win against Philly, like me and Brady said, who's one of the better teams in the East, and they've been on fire. So Brian Fernandez, the Argentine, has come to MLS and has kind of started like a Pozo-esque way of just dominating. 115 minutes, 5 shots on goal, 3 goals. So he's going off so far, and at 10.5 mil, definitely somebody to keep an eye on. This week they are playing LAFC, so, maybe not put him on your bench yet or your team yet, especially with all the double game weeks. But Brian Fernandez, definitely somebody to jot down if you're not already, and make sure you know about him. So those are the 2 winners this week. Now moving on to the big double L losers. Brady, who is the big loser for you?
Man, we were super high in the sky last week. We were both talking about him. Double game week for the Red Bulls, but my man, Mark Ratkowski, disappointed greatly. He missed one of the games, so, you can't fault him for that, when the team rotates lineups. But he played against FCC in a full match, only got your 3 points. For me personally, I had this man in my starting lineup, and it definitely held my team back on total points, having this man in there. You were hoping to get 2 games. You were hoping this man, he's been consistent this season. He doesn't have the highest ceiling, which was the thing. We were hoping to get, maybe 7 points and 8 points in each game, and looking to stack up and get a solid 15 in the midfielder, who's only costing us $9.2 million last week. So that was kind of the strategy on that play that we were thinking last week. But only playing in 1 match and only getting 3 points, really disappointing. Could have gone in a lot of different directions. So this man the Rat Man is a big loser this week, unfortunately.
Rat. Yeah, sadly, the Rat was a big loser. And kind of what we were just talking about, the 2 teams from the last week, double game week, kind of
disappointing, yeah.
Yeah, none of them really went off. You could kind of, Tarek was the best one.
Right.
And then Kaku, who nobody was, too high on, but, It's a weird week. But yeah, definitely the Rat was sadly underperforming. And you know who else is underperforming?
Hit me.
The star man from Orlando City, the big Portuguese nanny. Sadly, he put up a big 2 points for you last week. Oof. And 2 weeks in a row now, he's missed a penalty at the spot. Ugh. So he's not doing too well. If you're spending premium money on a guy like Nani, who's now just at 10.9 million. Last week he was up in the 11 range, and he only gets you 2 points strictly for minutes played. It's not a good week.
Rough.
So, I'm not saying this is bad for his season or anything, but you got to definitely bring up big superstar guys that cost you premium money when they poop the bed. So 2 points from Nani definitely is a big loser. And the next week they play against a tough Montreal team. So it would be fun to see if he bounces back. Maybe he gets another shot to redeem himself on some goals or on a PK even, and see if he can break out of that funk at the spot. But that's definitely a big loser. Nanny and the Rat Man, both the losers of the week. Johnny Russell and Brian Fernandez, both the winners of the week. So that does it for winners and losers. If you agreed, disagreed, or you got some other ones you want to chime in on, feel free to hit us up over on our Twitter at OTBounce. We'd be thrilled to hear from you guys out there.
We be,
mate. We be jamming. Shout out to all my Jamaicans. Darren Maddox, I know you're listening, bub. Shout out to you. So moving on to a big fan favorite, that's the Hidden Gem segment. So we're going to each give you one big hidden gem guy that's either under the radar or someone that we really love that's a great value price and puts up solid numbers. Because as we know, MLS Fantasy is all about getting that value play, saving money and making money. So Brady, hit him. Who is your big hidden gem this week?
Hey boys, listen up. I got a young boy for you who I mentioned quite a few weeks ago when he was just a wee lad at only $5 million. But my man, Brian White, the 23-year-old former Duke Blue Devil, is quite the hidden gem to take an eye at. My guy is the basically replacement for a legend in the game, Bradley Wright Phillips. I drew a line in the sand for Bradley Wright Phillips a few weeks ago, and I said, if this man doesn't start performing this week, it's over, and it's time to pivot and get on to Brian White, the young lad. And this guy's come through. He's been solid in every game that he's played. In each of his games, points per 90. He doesn't play a full 90 very often, but in points per 90, 7 points per game. Super solid. This in this last week, double game week, like we said for the Red Bulls, he was one of the shining lights in the Red Bulls. He had 13 points, 1 goal, 1 assist, 1 in each match. And he was the second highest scoring forward on the week. Made the dream team. So keep an eye on this lad. I think he's solidified the role. If I'm the Red Bulls, I'm locking this man into my starting lineup every single week. He's got some potential. Bradley Wright Phillips is just washed. He's old. It's time to move on. They're a team that has kind of struggled to score goals in like half their matches this year, I'd say. And I'm ready for Brian White to take over. This is the man.
I'm right there with you. And if you watch the games, he just looks good. You know what I mean? Like he looks like he carries himself well. Yeah. So I'm with you there on Big B White. I think it is time for him to take over as the forward, or at least one of the forwards. So I like that pick a lot. And moving over to my hidden gem, it's literally a guy I just told y'all about last week, and I pray that you listened and you reeled him in. That's the Saucy Seabass. Sebastian Saucedo, the midfielder from Real Salt Lake. Listen, kids, I told you last week to scoop him up.
Told you.
He was under $5 million, and even after popping off again, he's still $5.3 million. He's so cheap. Ooh. So over the last 3 games that he's played a full 90, which is the last 3 weeks in a row, he's got 7 points, 15 points, and 11 points. Absolutely balling and absolutely making you so much money on that value. So really, there's not much else to say. If you listened to me last week, you heard me say why I liked him, and it's because Real Salt Lake's finally starting to believe in him and playing him 90, 90, 90. He's got 2 goals, 2 assists on the season. He's making really good passes. He gets some nice bonus points here and there. He's really playing all over the pitch for Real Salt Lake, and lately they've been turning it around. They now got six wins on the season, and this is another double game week for him, so definitely look out for Sebastian Saucedo this week in your lineup. He's a great, cheap option that could end up playing 180 minutes, and he's $5.3 million, so that would be a big steal. So the Saucy Seabass, again, is a golden hidden gem.
The next time you lads are at the Bonefish Grill, I expect you to be ordering the Saucy Seabass.
It's a must. Shout out to our sponsors over at Bonefish. Listen.
I'll have an extra rare Saucy Seabass, sir.
Extra rare, eh? I like it. Give me an extra golden hidden gem meal, which is the Saucy Seabass, all right? With a side of B white sauce. So that'll do it for the kind of week 13 wrap up. All of the hidden gems, all of the winners and the losers, and all of that good stuff. So now we're going to jump right in to the task at hand, which is MLS week 14. And like I said, if you guys were sleeping in the beginning of the episode, we got a ton of teams playing twice this week. And some big ones like DC United, Philly Union, the Galaxy, DC United, Sporting KC. A ton of big players in fantasy will be playing twice this week. And as we all know, that really can be the make or break in your week. You got to make sure you get these guys in here. So let's start it off, Brady, with the fantasy matchups of the week. What games are we liking? Kick it off. What's the big one you're looking at?
I'm looking at something under the radar this week. How about my boys, the Montreal Impact, versus the very interesting and on the come-up Real Salt Lake lads? I think this is a super sneaky, relevant fantasy matchup this week. We've got Joey's lad, the Saucy Seabass, which he's been telling you about. We got the Rusty Snack, Albert Rust Snack, also on Real Salt Lake. And we got some interesting forwards on there as well. And they're coming up against the dominant defensive players on Montreal, my lads. And I just think this is one sneaky relevant. I can see a 3-2 outcome here going to either side. Both teams have 6 wins. They're in the playoff mix. They're looking to. There's just 2 kind of under the radar teams, honestly, that I don't think a lot of people thought were going to be here. This one is in Montreal. It's going to have great weather. It's on Wednesday. I think this is going to be a solid matchup, and I'm digging it.
I'm right there with you because. Like you were saying, it's under the radar, and it's because both teams are really just scrapping it out and trying to show everybody that we're for real. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it'll be very fun to see what both teams can kind of do. If Montreal can keep bouncing back, or if Real Salt Lake can keep the winning ways going. So I like that a lot. And kind of on the same type of game, my key matchup of the week is the one that starts right before that and that kicks off the week tonight at 7 p.m. That's Atlanta United at home against Minnesota United. And it's kind of the same thing. Like, Minnesota United was that team that started out super hot. You know, they had Darwin Quintero just tearing it up.
Right.
And Atlanta United was the opposite. They started out super slow, and Joseph was just kind of like doing nothing.
Yeah.
And now the roles have kind of reversed. Like, Atlanta's been on a little bit of a hot streak, and Minnesota's kind of been on a roller coaster. Right. So I think this is a big week for both teams to prove that, like, you know, Minnesota might need to prove that they're, you know, they've been dominant as they showed early, and Atlanta might be the team that needs to prove that we actually, you know, are the dominant team everybody knows us to be. So you got some great options in here, of course. I don't want to say too many because we're going to name a couple here in the starters of the week, but, you know, definitely look at a ton of these guys that are going to be playing twice. And for Atlanta, they have a nice cheat code in this double game week. They stay right at home in Mercedes-Benz Arena in both games again. I think just like 3 weeks ago when they did the double game week, they were at home for both.
All right.
So shout out to the MLS scheduler on that one. Yeah, literally, Atlanta just gets to stay in that fortress for 2 games in a week for fun. But yeah, I think that'll be a fun game to start the week off. Hopefully we didn't just put the on-the-bounce curse on those games because every time we're like, listen, this is a great game. It's like, 0-0 incoming, hot. So we'll see, but those are definitely our two matchups to keep your peepers on. I think it's going to be a fun start to the week. So now, over to the key starters. Like I mentioned earlier, we are missing Jarvis. So this week, me and Brady are both giving you 4 key starters of the week. So we're making it up. We're still giving you 8 guys that we think you got to have in your starting 11 this week. And most of them are definitely on these big double game weeks. Because like I said, even if they're guys that are averaging like 5 to 7, they're going to be playing twice. They're going to get you those double digits and could go nuclear because of it. So definitely, you know, jot these name downs, boys. Start making your lineup out with us because we're giving you some big gems right here. So I'm going to go ahead and reverse it. I'm going to kick it off with my first key starter of the week. And that's a guy from the team I was just talking about, Atlanta United. And it's Big King Joseph. We all know him, Joseph Martinez. He's still under 10 million because of that kind of slump he had in the beginning of the year. He's at 9.8, which is pretty much a steal for a guy that we all know is like, you know, he's above the rest when he's on. And lately, he's been on again. Week 10, 14 points. Week 11, 15 points. Week 12, 11 points. Last week, 7 points. So he's been really starting to come back alive. He's got 6 goals, 2 assists on the season. And of course, he's absolutely letting it rip. He's almost got 50 shots taken so far this year. He's just letting it fly. And I love that. You want that from a striker. So this week, like I said, they do take on Minnesota first and then Chicago, and both games are at home, and I think both games he has good potential to get a goal or an assist in both. So I think it's a great play for Joseph this week. Like I said, he's under 10 mil, and he's a superstar, so lock him in. Could be even a captain's choice. So Joseph Martinez is my first key starter of the week. Brady, who's yours?
I'm going to start on the sleeper end here, and I'm going to give you guys a nice deep defender option with a double game week, and Tommy Smith. My guy's on Colorado, one of the late bloomers like Joey was talking about. 2 wins in the last 2 weeks, and that's their only 2 wins in the season. But you know what? That doesn't matter. They got a double game this week. They got to start the week off against Philly, which is going to be a little rough. Philly might take him out, but not to worry. This man plays on offense. He's got 2 goals, 1 assist on the season, and then they've got the great matchup against FCC. Which is great shutout potential. So I'm thinking, here's what I'm thinking. This is the scenario, lad. Here's what I'm saying. We're going to say my man's going to get 1 goal or 1 assist against Philly. He's going to get you a solid 7-8 points. And then the next game, they're going to get a shutout, and this man's going to go nuclear. In the last 2 weeks, let me tell you, when this team wins, it's because Tommy Smith goes ham. 11 points against the Galaxy, they win 1-0. 8 points against Columbus, they win 3-2. My guy is a extremely solid player. A great cheap option, only 5.9 million currently. I think this is an auto start for me. I'm throwing this man in my lineup, hoping for that goal and assist and a shutout. And, we're hoping for some nuclear weeks from a cheap beast in Tommy Smith.
You're telling me Tommy Smith is the Rapids' key to success lately?
I'm telling you. That's what
I like it. Literally, if you're listening, Tommy, You just know you got the key,
You're the
mate.
lad.
Trust me. It's all on you. So sticking with defenders, this is the complete opposite as what Brady was talking about. A cheap beast. I'm giving you an expensive beast. That's another Atlanta United boy, and that is Gonzalez Perez, the big center back. Everybody knows him, just like Joseph. One of the keys to the reason they were so dominant last year, and this year he's been balling again. He's averaging 7 points a game in fantasy, and he's still, for an elite level defender, he's at a reasonable price. He's $9.5 million, especially when you factor in the double game weeks. And as we know, we've been talking about it, the Atlanta United defenders just set an MLS record a couple weeks ago for most minutes without a goal allowed. It was like 5 games in a row they kept a shutout. He's been balling. And if you really want to deep dive into some stats, the last 2 times that Atlanta had a double game week, he had 19 and 15. So he's pretty much a lock to get you very solid numbers in double game weeks. And with the 2 matchups against Minnesota and Chicago, both at home, I think he's a lock to get at least 1 shutout. Could do both because, like I said, Atlanta's been very hot on defense, and they don't want to let that go. That's kind of their game plan. They're going to really just stick it to you on defense. And Gonzalez Perez is definitely a great start. $9.5 million. Lock him in and have no fear. Trust him. Trust him. All right, Brady, back to you. Who's another key starter for you?
All right, lads, how about a nice midfielder on one of the top 5 offenses in the entire MLS? I'm talking about the Goop Squad. I'm talking about Haris Medunjanin, the midfielder for the Philadelphia Union, averaging 7 points per game over his last 5 with a high of 12 points, 9.7 points. This man has got a high floor and a pretty high ceiling as well. I think this is an auto start for me. They've got the big double game week, of course, against Minnesota and Colorado, as I mentioned. So I'm thinking you got to grab at least 2 of these Philly lads. This man has played 90 minutes in every single match this season. He's a modest $10.3 million in the midfield. I mean, this is a pretty easy option. This is one of the top scorers on one of the top offenses with 2 solid matchups this week. I'm definitely throwing in Medunjanin in my lineup this week, and I might give you a little stack to stack with him.
Okay, I like it. Nothing ever wrong with a nice fantasy stack. That's kind of a cheat code all the time. So I'm going to keep on my kind of streak of high-priced defenders, but I think that are good for it, and that is DC United defender Steve Birnbaum. This is pretty much from Josh Jarvis's spirit in the room right now, because this is one of his boys all season.
His lad.
He's been one of the better defenders in MLS fantasy all season. That's because he's got a goal, got an assist, and he's got some clean sheets, as we know. DC United was like the original team in the beginning of the season that was like a lock for clean sheets. They started out just not being scored on, and then they played LAFC. So, as you do, you lose by like 8 to LAFC. But he has put up some big numbers in recent weeks. He's had 11 and 9. And of course, early in the season, he had 17, 12, 11. He's been a high performer all year. And I think, again, this is another guy on a defense that definitely has at least 1 clean sheet in them. But in this double game week, they play both games at home, just like Atlanta United, and it's Chicago and San Jose. So who knows what can happen? I think Chicago could be clean sheet potential, and San Jose, I don't know what to think, because they were really bad, and now Wondolowski's randomly turned into a god, 5 goals in 2 games, or 6 goals in 2 games, so I don't know about that one. But I think Chicago DC United could definitely earn a clean sheet, and Steve Birnbaum could definitely, have a nice fantasy week with these double game weeks.
I buy it.
So I like him this week. An expensive defender, but I think it's worth it because those defenders, man, with the clean sheets on double game week, that's where you really just start racking up points. So that is my 3rd key starter of the week. Brady, who is your next? Is this your last or is this your 3rd?
This is my third. This is my 3rd.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with the guy that I mentioned last week, my key starters. And lads, he delivered. It's not DiGiorno. It's some good-ish. It's Papa John's. He delivered. It's my guy, Kasper Przybylko, another gooper. This is a great stack that I'm going for. This is kind of a cheap beast. Only $6.8 million for a forward. The absolute epitome of consistency. The last 5 weeks, this man has scored 8 points, 2 points, 5 points, 16 points, and 9 points. This man is just, ever since he's come to the league in week 8, this man has just been super consistent. He's not going to get you, 20 points, but with a double game week, he can, because he's going to get you 2 solid weeks. I think this is awesome stack with Harris Medunjanin. Get these two goopers for all the reasons that I told you with Harris. I mean, two great matchups against Minnesota and Colorado, who both have vulnerable defenses, who've given up quite a few goals this season. I'm seeing some big points for these two lads. I'm seeing 2 assists from Harris and 2 goals from my guy Prisbilko, the Casper, the friendly ghost. We're going to get some major points this week, lads, especially with such a cheap beast. Only $6.8 million for a forward who gives you that much consistency. I think this is a great option. Start him, lads. He's a key starter.
I love it. Just like last week when Brady brought him up, it was a great pick, and it's because of what he just said. He's so consistent. Like, man, you really want consistency, especially in a forward. That's something that's hard to come by, and that cheap. That's ridiculous.
If you can get 8 points for $7 million, that's a deal.
Literally, that's gigantic, especially on a double game week. That's going to be huge value right there, boys. I hope you heard that one. Don't miss Casper the Friendly Ghost. So, wrapping up my key starters of the week, it's a man who I've talked about many times this year, one of my favorite players in MLS Fantasy, and that is JDS, Jonathan Dos Santos from the LA Galaxy. Now, hopefully you guys saw him last week score an absolute beautiful goal. He got 12 points in fantasy, which has kind of been like a trend for him. He's hit double digits and 12 a few times this year. He is averaging a very impressive 7.3 in fantasy at midfield, and he's still only 10.7, so he's not up there at like the 11s or the 12s, but I think he's going to be soon. So get in on him. And as we've talked about before, he is a bonus point fiend. I don't know why, but every time, like even if he doesn't get a goal or an assist, he's going to get like 8 to 9 points because he racks up key chances created, crosses, tackles, passes, like everything. He just does it all for the Galaxy. So last time he played a double game week, like he is this week, he racked up a big 17 points, and like I just said, he did nothing goals or assist-wise. It was just simply playing good and getting bonus points. So imagine if he puts up 15 or 17 again and scores a goal or an assist. He's going to be going off this week. Yeah, exactly. And they got some pretty decent matchups. Sporting KC, which is tricky, like we talked about. No one kind of knows what they're on. They only got 3 wins, but, you know, on paper they're great. So, and of course, like last week, they showed that they're great. And then their second game of the week in the double game week, they play against the kind of struggling, weird, really bad New England Revolution team. So I think JDS is a great start, and I think his bub is going to ball out. Brady, who's his bub?
Let me tell you, a great segue into his lad coming back from a suspension, a 2-game suspension, into a double game week, making up for it. The God King, the Lion, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Lads, I think this is a fantastic option to throw into your starting lineup for obvious reasons. An absolute hound, one of the most talented players ever in the MLS. 9 goals, 2 assists on the season. I'm still keeping the faith that Zlatan is going to break some goal records this season, passing Carlos Vela. I feel a streak. I feel a streak that is just going to set the MLS on fire, coming very, very soon.
Easy 5 a game.
We've got some very favorable matchups coming up. As Joey said, SKC, New England, and then FCC coming up in a month. So they do have a two-week hiatus coming up soon. But keep an eye on Zlatan Ibrahimovic this week. An auto start for me. I'm thinking 50 points if you captain this man. That's not out of the question by any means. 60 points is not out of the question with Zlatan this week. This is a big start. Zlatan, the God King.
He's going to be very hungry after missing those 2 games
it's
from suspension.
True. Fresh legs. He's ready.
Going to be extremely ready. So let's move on. Well, that does it for the fantasy key starters of the week. Those are 8 hot boys that we think you got to have in your lineup, and we just gave you every reason in the world why. And now we're going to move on to the captain's log, where we tell you who we think you got to throw that armband on. And I'm gonna actually change mine on the fly because I just hyped myself up so much about who I was talking about in the key starters. I'm a double dip. I'm literally going. It's JDS.
Oh,
I'm double dipping right back on him. He's averaging 7.3 as a midfielder. He's 10.7. You know what really got me? what really got me lit as I was talking about it was literally his bonus points. Like, he literally just gets so many bonus points. And like I said, the last time he had a double game week, he got 17, and that was without a single goal or a single assist. So, like I said, imagine he gets 17, you captain him. Oh, I'm up in the 30s, and let's say he also knocks in just one goal. He's almost at 40 because of you capping him on a double game week. And like me and Brady just said, LA Galaxy got very nice matchups, and he's got the dog back. He's got Zlatan back to feed. Offense. He's going to be feeding them. Jeez. So that is my kind of hipsterish captain pick of the week, but I really think JDS is a solid shout for captain. Brady, who's your big captain's pick?
You know, I'm feeling it as well. I'm saying Zlatan Ibrahimovic, his bub. I'm thinking this tag team this week is going to be dangerous. With Zlatan back in the lineup, 2 favorable matchups, JDS balling in the midfield, Zlatan up top. I mean, LA Galaxy, like we said, are one of the most talented teams in the league. I mean, how can you not pick these 2 lads to be obvious, great captain's choices? I'm slapping the R-band on Ibra and hoping for some massive points.
I think we're getting them. I really think we're getting it. I think LA Galaxy is just going to randomly, dump on both people this week.
Truth.
They're going to kind of wake up, and just especially with Ibra coming back off those suspensions, he's going to be fired up.
It's going to be dirty.
The hungry lion this week, boys, and he's got two feasts ahead of him. I like it. So that does it for the big episode 20. We gave you the captain's picks, the key starters of the weeks, the matchups of the week, winners and losers from last week, hidden gems, everything you want. We gave you like an 8-course meal, boys and girls. I hope you liked it. And if you did or didn't, hit us up on Twitter. Let us know, @OTBounce. So let's move right on to the outro. Brady, anything else you want to bring up or anything we forgot to talk about before we close this one out?
I do want to add that one of your key starters, Joseph. I think you convinced me in your segment that he's also a very great captain's choice. I was feeling it. I was feeling it when you were talking about it. I was like, all right, Joseph might be my captain's choice this week because that's
you see in the notes. That's who I had.
Yeah.
And then I just changed it on the fly.
I mean, that's tough to choose between the great options this week that we have. But I don't think you can go wrong with any of these guys. But I had to throw that in there. Joseph is also
definitely
awesome pick.
I like it. It's going to be a fun week like we've been talking about. Tons of great games. And before we go again, let me just remind you, as you guys are listening on Wednesday, all the games start tonight, 7 p.m. Atlanta, Minnesota United. Kick it off, and then there's 5 great games on the slate. So make sure you're making those lineups out. You're keeping an eye out on the lineups at around 6 to make sure you got your guys playing because, rotation's a thing, especially when you play all of these games. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows who's going to start? Who's on the 18? All that stuff. That's the fun of MLS fantasy. So it's definitely going to be fun to see what's going on. But I think that does it for On the Bounce episode 20. A big shout out to everybody that's been listening so far. It's been very fun making all these podcasts. It's just fun playing this game. And coming up soon, maybe even when the next season starts, because in MLS Fantasy there's 2 seasons. You got the spring and the fall, league. So who knows? Maybe when the fall league starts, On the Bounce might make its own league and kind of invite our listeners to join us so we can pound all of you guys, but who knows? Maybe we'll start not sharing so many secrets. But if you guys are out there listening and you think that'd be something fun, be sure to hit us up in the comments or over on Twitter. And if you're listening to us on iTunes, Spotify, or Podbean, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment, review, do whatever you can, and it would be greatly appreciated. So for me, JK, Brady, Gravy the Gaffer, I think that does it for On the Bounce episode 20. We will see you guys back here next week. Have a great week. Enjoy some good MLS action. And that does it. Deuces, boys.
Moi.